it's supposed to feel.
Hello miners, I'm Chubb Dixon, and today we're going to show off the electric Boogaloo engineer build in Deep Rock Galactic. These builds are designed to explore maxing out one character trait. Under the solo context, we will analyze the effectiveness, hazard level limits, and most importantly, amount of fun we have running these builds. Today, it's all about generating as much electric current as possible with Engineer's Stubby SMG. As you can see here, we run the 2-2-2-2-2. Perks 2 and 3 are not electrically related, but this is what I like to run. There are shockingly 2 overclocks related to Engineer Stubby, but for our purposes, we will run the Micro-Conductor add-on, as we want to be able to use both platforms and turrets to generate electricity. These combos will effectively act as the crowd control portion of our kit. Now, this build is mostly about the Stubby. However, there is one perk on one secondary weapon that is tangentially similar. In other words, I'm working with what I got. Tier 5's Hydrogen Rupturing does increased damage to enemies that are electrified. To complement this, I run the 2-1-2-2-1 with the efficiency tweaks overclock. Now, I'll be the first one to admit, I don't have the slightest clue how this thing works. So leave some advice for me down below. But what we are left with is a mix between Homelander, Electro, and an 80s coke-addicted disco jockey. You are welcome. For the pickaxe, we're running the 1-3, because better weight balance looks like a lightning symbol. That's all I got. The only necessary perks for your turrets is in tier 1. And I say turrets because, well, that's precisely it. You need 2 of them in order to generate a current from one to the other. Otherwise, I run the 1-2-2-1. But feel free to customize perks 2 through 4. Engineer's platform gun is very impactful to what we are trying to achieve here at Dry Rub Studios. Trademark pending. Because the larger the dance floor, the more pests you can violently shock to death. This is why we take the 2-1-1. Maximizing our total ammo pool. The throwable has absolutely no bearing on how we shock our enemies, but it is highly, and I can't stress this enough, highly important that you take the L.U.R.E. I just can't stand to see Steve out there on the dance floor all by himself. Focusing back on ourselves, we get a good look at our armor options. Taking the 1-2-1-2, we release a static discharge whenever our shield breaks. Top 5 answers up on the board. We asked 100 dwarves, name the 5 perks most likely to get picked by a greenbeard. It's a bug thing.
Thief.
Alright, let's do a speed round of perks and reasons why I chose them. Unstoppable. This perk lets us run through our own electrified turrets without getting slowed down too much. Elemental Insulation. Same reason as number 1. It's a bug thing. I'm continuing my crusade against the deep state of Hoxies. The Cabal. I'll need your support in my overthrow of these sycophantic tyrants whose mindless greed saps the rest of us from our precious resources. The bourgeoisie will be whole once more. All will be bright, and I will be able to afford crack rock again. Dash because it looks like a lightning bolt, and Iron Will because I said so. Whew. This build effectively turns Engineer into a support DPS hybrid, who can bring entire swarms to a crawl while outputting insane damage with the Shard Diffractor. When I say crawl, I mean it. Enemies affected by electricity experience a massive 80% speed debuff, and with the perks selected by our build, they take an extra 25 to 33% damage by our primary and secondary respectively. The synergistic crowd control of the Stubby and the platform gun allow for fantastic crowd control, while the Shard Diffractor helps handle the larger armored targets. The turrets and platform gun also perform their traditional duty, providing a tad more damage and cave maneuverability. The Electrician covers most bases and enables a low-stress, unique way to play Deep Rock. There are 2 blatant weaknesses with this build. The first being single target damage for those tricky enemy types. Glyphid Stalkers and other high DPS, low health pool enemies can get the better of you if not contacted by an electric current. Engineer lacks the explosive power seen by something like the pump action shotgun or breach cutter. Secondarily, and most glaring, is the incompatibility with certain game modes. Mission types, like on-site refineries or salvage operations, are fantastic for this build, as you fight in the same cave start to finish. This means that you can reuse old platforms as you progress through the mission. However, the same cannot be said for mining or industrial sabotage missions. The electrician is a jack of all trades that boasts a few niche specialties as well. While it has few gaps in its armor, when these gaps are exploited, they make the player feel weak and helpless to the situation they are in. For these reasons, the build gets a 4.5 beers for effectiveness. Essentially turning bugs into lightning rods, then sticking them in Lake Maracaibo, means that the more there are, the more effective the build becomes. I found myself playing this build comfortably at around Hazard 5x2, but it felt a little less natural playing at the original Hazard 5 due to lower swarm sizes. Either way, it's a confident 5 out of 5 for Hazard level rating. As for fun, if you have never run this build, I highly suggest it. It's a really unique playstyle when you're used to other engineer builds where you just hold mouse 1 into a crowd of enemies, instead opting for the ground upon which they lay their arachnid toes. It does, however, get old pretty fast. Who would have thought that shooting the ground over and over would get boring? But hey, at least it looks pretty. For these reasons, the build gets a pinch on the ass and a 3 out of 5 for fun. Taking the subjective mean of our rating to somehow create an objective score, we end with slightly over 4 out of 5 beers. And so, that's the electric Boogaloo engineer build in Deep Rock Galactic. Have a wonderful day, God bless, and remember miners, cock and bone.